This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast with today's guest, Louise Brogan.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I'm your host, Selena Knight, the retail strategist, and thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to learn, grow, and be inspired. Now, if you are like me and you often tear your hair out about how you can engage your tribe on social media, then you are going to love today's guest. Louise Brogan is all about engaging your followers on social media, and she is going to share some tips, some tricks, some hints. We get down and dirty about my thoughts on Instagram and Snapchat and a whole bunch of other things like Facebook groups, and you may just be shocked to hear what I think about Facebook groups. I'm going to leave you hanging. But honestly, it is so hard sometimes to get engagement. I know that personally, I've been trying to get onto my Facebook page every couple of days and just have a chat, not necessarily going on and talking about a business strategy, but just showing people that I'm a regular person and I've got regular commitments like you all do. I've got to take my daughter to school. I've got to juggle being a working mom. All those sorts of things. It is not easy having a business, and it is certainly not easy if you have one that has demanding customers. And in this day and age, it is so important that we are out there on social media and we are showing people just exactly who our brand is and what we stand for, because that is where people learn to relate. That is where people get to see, the face behind the brand. And I love seeing behind the scenes videos. I love that Marie Forleo does a series of unplugged videos, and I just love watching them. And clearly they work, because I am not the only person who loves them. I would love to do something similar, but it's funny because I just think my life is so boring. Why would you guys want to see what is going on in my life? But I know it's like a peek behind the curtain. And in fact, I was just recently on a coaching call for my Boutique Academy members, and I was showing them my office, which has, I'm looking at it right now, we have a rock. Houses built in the 70s. They thought that this great big sandstone rock, which is probably about, probably 7 foot tall by about 10 foot wide. So about 2 meters by just over 3 meters. It is huge. It is literally the whole wall of one section of my office. Sounds really cool, but in actual fact, not so much. That rock is sandstone. And sandstone, when it gets wet, likes to shed little pieces everywhere. So for the last 12 years, we've put up with this rock. But then we decided no more. So we've had to jackhammer the rock out. And then on the weekend, my lovely husband just built the framing for the wall. So next up, we just have to wait for the plasterers to come in, and then I will have an office that is nearly done. And then we just have to finish the floor. I currently have flooring on half of my office. I know the stuff that we live with, right? Especially when you're doing renovations. I've lived with half a floor for quite some time now. I mean, there is a floor there. Don't get me, it's not just bare boards. It's like really old, disgusting brown tile, like poo brown tile. And I can't wait for it to be gone. I can't wait for the day when I walk into my office and just go, it's done. It's finished. It's actually on, believe it or not, on my goal sheet to walk into a finished office. I know. Sometimes it's the small things in life. But that whole peek behind the curtain, it is so true. So maybe have a think about what can you show your audience on social media that is a peek behind the curtain. And I always love seeing videos of stock being unpacked. I know that my clients, I often get them to do unboxing videos when stock arrives, because it just adds to the hype, it adds to the flavor, and people want to be excited about what you're stocking. So when it comes to social media, I think the key point that Louise is going to share with you is it is about being social. And quite often we get so caught up in using it as a lead generation source that we sometimes forget just to be fun, to have fun, to let it be really easy. Now, before we jump into today's episode with Louise, I just quickly want to remind you that my Ultimate Holiday Promotions Creator is just about to finish up. So if you would like to grab hold of it, it is everything you need to create the perfect promotion that is profitable and successful. It's my step-by-step walkthrough, and inside you'll find the exact emails that I've used, you'll find social media templates, you'll find a marketing budget calculator, everything that you need to create a successful promotion. And you can grab it just for a few more days over at selenaknight.com/holidays. Okay, so let's jump into today's episode with Louise Brogan. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Today's guest is Louise Brogan, and she loves helping people how to figure out how to market their business using online tools. So welcome to the show, Louise.
Hi, Selena. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you. I love the accents. I think a lot of the people who listen to the podcast are actually American, so I'm sure that they get a little buzz out of my accent. But I love having different accents on my show, and you have got a beautiful Irish accent going on. So I think it just adds to the atmosphere of a podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so tell us a little bit about how you help people to market their businesses online.
Okay, well, I started about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I live just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland, and it's not a huge market for people who do what I do, because not a lot of people really understand how to actually properly market their business online when it gets down to it. So I teach people how to properly create a strategy and have an actual plan for marketing online, whether that's starting with, having a blog or an online shop, and then having social media backing that up, and building an email list. So really bringing it all together in a proper system, rather than what I call the spray and pray method, where people think, oh, I must do some marketing on social media. That's my customers are on Facebook. So they jump on Facebook and they just post something randomly, and they don't get any return on it because they haven't actually thought about where their customers are, or what they're doing, or how they're going to reach them, or even what their message is. So I really sit down with people and work out to properly plan how to actually market your business using online tools. And I think the fact that it's so affordable, it's such an affordable option for small business owners these days to use online marketing, it's really a no-brainer for me.
I know, isn't it? It's funny how a lot of people get a little bit stressed when they spend money in online marketing, and they say, oh, I've spent $300. And I've been in the business for a while now, and I feel like slapping them and saying, and if you ran a newspaper ad, it would have been $400, but you would have had to commit for 10 weeks.
And it would have gone, and someone would have read the paper and put it in the recycling.
Yeah. Whereas with online marketing, it's like, if it's not working, you'll know in 48 hours whether you've got some traction or not, and you can just switch it off. You can change it around.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you say. People, they compare. Even if I say to people, if you want to start with paid advertising, start with £5 or $5 a day to see how you get on. And they look at you and think, I'm not spending $5. And I think, well, what are you spending those £5 on in your business?
How else are you going to get customers?
Yeah, if you can't afford to spend £25 over a 5-day period to market your business on Facebook, maybe you haven't really got a business.
Oh, look, let's not even go down. I could get my ranty pants on about that. I get so frustrated is probably the best word when I see people saying, I just started a business. Could be any business, not just a retail business, and I don't have any money for marketing. So what can I do to get more customers? And I feel like saying, if you've got no money whatsoever, then you kind of don't have a business. Like, there are loads of free things that you can do, right? But you still need some money at the end of the day to market your business.
All
right,
absolutely. So you need to get started somewhere.
Somewhere, exactly. So what do you think is the best place to start? Do you think it's important to work out what your message is first, or to work out where your customers are first?
I think actually you need to figure out who your customer is. And once you know who your customer is, then you can find out, where they are. So an example of that, I suppose, is somebody who is maybe a careers coach, coaching people on interview techniques, for example. So who are they looking? Somebody who's maybe in a career shift in their mid-30s. Well, where are they going to be hanging out online? Yes, they're going to be on Facebook looking at stuff about their friends and family. But if they're actually looking at changing their job, maybe they're going to be spending more time on LinkedIn. So that career coach should maybe spend a little bit more effort connecting on LinkedIn than they should promoting themselves on Facebook. So it really, once you can identify who the person is that you're trying to actually connect with, then figure out where they're spending the time looking for something that you may be able to offer them. And then that's where you really put your focus.
And do you think you have to change that message depending on which platform you're talking on?
Definitely. So if you really, to give a quick run through the main ones, if you look at Twitter is a really fast moving news feed, and really on there people describe it as more of the cocktail party of online marketing. It's short and sharp and fast and quick connections. Whereas Facebook, when you post something on a Facebook page, it hangs around for a couple of hours. So you put a bit more in depth into that, but also the message you put on Facebook, you want it to be more in line of what somebody would actually see in their friends and family's posts. So much more of a kind of a chatty, informal tone on there. Then on Instagram, it's all about all your hashtags, and you can put up to 30 hashtags on every Instagram post. And then if you look at LinkedIn, it's much more of a professional network. Although I have to say, there are a few people who are testing the waters a little bit on LinkedIn at the minute, being a little less professional, but I still think that it should be kept with more of a professional tone on LinkedIn. But so each different platform kind of has its own tone, and it's up to you to kind of change your message for each platform, even down to the length of the actual message as well.
So that gets really exhausting, right? Even if we just take the top 4 platforms, if we take Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, we don't even go anywhere near Pinterest just yet. Yeah. Those are 4 platforms that potentially you have to adjust your message for. So are you saying that you can't do the post, if you post to Instagram and it also posts to Facebook, and there's things like Zapier, which will let you post to LinkedIn. Do you say that that's not a great strategy?
I think when I'm talking to a new client, I would say to them, focus on 2 platforms at the most. And if you're brand new to online marketing and social media as a business owner, and I'm talking business being completely different to you as your personal profiles on these accounts, you want to really get to learn 1 properly, and then expand to 2. But you cannot be on all of these platforms all the time. So if you want to have a presence on the other 2, so say you choose to be mainly on Facebook and Instagram. Well, if you aren't going to be able to spend a lot of time on the other 2, it's okay to have your posts going on to those platforms. But say you're Selena and you jump onto Twitter and you see my account, Social BNI, and all you can see is that I'm just posting out stuff that looks like it's coming straight from my Facebook page. You're not going to connect with me on Twitter. If you sent me if you retweeted or replied to me on Twitter and you got nothing back, you're going to soon unfollow me. So I think, yes, you can have posts set up to go across all the different accounts, but if you're not going to be able to actually maintain and reply to those posts on those accounts, really you got to think, are you actually possibly portraying your business, not very well online?
I have to say that I don't get Twitter. I have had people on the show to tell me all about Twitter, and clearly I have a great big mental block, which is hilarious because I love fast-paced. I love talking really quickly. I love, I have a short attention span when it comes to things like that. So technically, it should be the place that I like to hang out. But every time I go there, I just don't get it. There are too many rules that go on in Twitter. People don't see this and that. So I gave myself a challenge once upon a time, which was like, I'm going to go and post on Twitter every day for a month. And I think I lasted about 3 days, after which point I was just like, I don't get if anybody is seeing this. I don't understand how to retweet something. Do you know what? I'm pretty sure that my people aren't even hanging out on Twitter. So I'm just going to make sure I've got my little spot there so that nobody can take my name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to walk away gracefully.
Do you know what? Sometimes that is the best plan, because if you're finding your audience and engaging with them on other platforms, then that's where your focus should be. And I really strongly believe that for all businesses.
And do you think it's, for some people, I mean, people listening here, it's retailers, but do you think that things like LinkedIn get neglected because they think my customers aren't hanging out there? I know a lot of retailers spend time hanging out on Facebook and Instagram because they think that's where my customers are. But do you think that avoiding something like LinkedIn, even if it is not your, you don't post every single day, maybe you post something once a week, do you think that's an okay strategy?
Yes, I do. And that actually, to be quite honest, is probably my own LinkedIn strategy. My absolute preference is Facebook. I just like being on Facebook. But really in the groups, I love spending time in the groups on Facebook. And that's where I interact with other business owners. And I have my own Facebook group, the Social Beehive, and I spend a lot of time in there. But I do get, it's ironic because I do get business from LinkedIn, but I just don't like it. I don't like being on there as much. So I probably am only in there a few times a week. If you think that my business is, helping people with their social media, then I am on social media, pretty much, not all the time, but, pretty much all day, with working with client accounts and creating training videos and stuff. So I do go into LinkedIn and I do post in there and I do get business from it, but I just prefer being on Facebook, and I get enough business and engagement, I guess, from Facebook and Twitter that's what my business, that's where my business is thriving. So that's where my focus is. And I think it's with Instagram, I have a pretty good Instagram account, and I make a point of posting on there once a day, and I do interact with other accounts and leave messages and stuff. But the whole Instagram follow unfollow nonsense just puts me off, to be honest. When you log in, and so this morning, for example, because I released my latest podcast episode, I got about a bump in about 40 new followers, but I know in a day or two those people will have left.
Yeah.
Because they're just they're just doing the follow unfollow. It drives me cuckoo. So I just, I prefer to spend my time on Facebook, and I do love Twitter, actually.
It is probably...
But I've always loved Twitter.
You clearly get Twitter.
I actually used to run a Twitter hour locally here, called Antrim Hour, every Monday night, for about 18 months. I only really finished doing it about a month or two ago. I love it. You connect with people on the hashtag, and it's just really is a lovely. It's like, as you say, it's a really fast-paced conversation.
We'll have to revisit that another time. When I'm in the right headspace, I will go back and have a look. But I wanted to ask you about your thoughts of Instagram, and perhaps I'm going to get some hate mail for saying this, but
okay.
I believe that Instagram has changed a lot since it's been around, and I feel like now all it's used for is to kind of, I don't know, photo shame everybody. I don't know if that's, it just makes people feel so inadequate because there are these perfectly, poised people and perfectly, manicured photos that people take hours to put together. And then for the non-professional Instagrammer, they see these and they're kind of like, well, I can't live up to that. And it feels like if you aren't that, if this is not your full-time job, hanging out on Instagram, then you're probably not going to get the followers that you would like, because your beautiful photos are not as fantastic as the next one. And I say this from experience because I am the crappiest photographer. Like, I just don't, I can't do, like, I can take a photo, but I can't get the aspect that people get. And, beautiful
No.
flat lays and things like that. So
Mm.
I probably don't post on Instagram anywhere near as much because I just feel like my photos, they just won't appeal to people. So do you think that you have to be like in my head I'm thinking, full-time professional Instagrammer to have a really good news feed?
So this is really interesting conversation because it's Tuesday and on Sunday night I was in a Twitter hour over on Twitter again, Selena, discussing Instagram, and it was all about Instagram. And there was the guest on there was a lady called Sarah Tasker. So she's got 180,000 followers, I think, on Instagram, but she's a photographer, and one of the questions in the Twitter hour was, who do you most love to follow on Instagram? And I honestly, I was like, oh, I only really look at like my friends who have their own businesses stuff on there. And some people listed this big long name of Twitter or of Instagram accounts. And I replied and I said, are these people all actual photographers? And, the response was, oh, we're all photographers on Instagram. And I thought, well, I'm exactly the same as you, Selena. I am not a good photographer. I was out walking my dog and I saw a beautiful autumn tree and I took a picture of it and put it on Instagram. But, I didn't think about the lighting. I don't know anything about photography. And I don't have time to go and learn about photography in order to get following for my business. As I said, I'm getting enough following over on Facebook for my business. And I do agree with you, but it was really interesting that the people who were completely crazy about Instagram in this Twitter chat were, listing all these accounts, but they were people who were, really good photographers. And, I don't want to learn how to be a good photographer. I just like going on Instagram and liking the posts that I like. And whenever I put a lot of my posts on Instagram, if they're not ones where I'm out and about, are more likely to be ones that I've created in Canva and uploaded, which is I'm probably about to get hate mail too.
That's our strategy as well. We either repost beautiful visual merchandising pictures and tag the person who took the picture.
Yeah.
Or we have we have quotes, or I call them quote decks, the pictures with the writing over the top, because
yes,
I don't want to feel inadequate. I don't go on social media to feel crap about myself.
Definitely not. Oh dear. But it's really funny because as well, I think everyone's perception of different social media platforms is driven by the people that they follow. So if you're following lots of accounts on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook pages that are full of these beautifully, poised photographs, then you're going to feel kind of like you don't really stand up next to them. But if you follow people who are kind of similar to you, or maybe, people in your industry doing similar kind of stuff to you, or just like literally your friends' photographs on Instagram, then suddenly you don't feel so bad. So, I always say, and like I do local workshops on social media, and you always get the people, so say you got 20 business owners at a workshop who've come along to learn about how to use Facebook, for example, and you always get one or two who say, oh, I hate Facebook, I hate, it's just full of people boasting about what they've spent at the weekend or where they've gone for a drink. And I say, well, it really depends who your friends are on Facebook, because your Facebook feed looks very different to my Facebook feed. And I think that a lot of people forget that when they talk and write about social media and the negative aspects of it. It's up to the individual who you're actually following and what you're following, and that determines what you're going to see.
Yeah, that's very true. And I guess when I follow lots of retailers, then I do see those curated photos because that's their business, right? So, yes. You are 100% right with that. Let me ask you another question. You said earlier on that it's really important to know your message. So now that we're talking about curating photos and what you're going to talk about, how do you help people to work out what their social message is going to be?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think, well, when you go to work with a new business or client, usually when they come to me, a brand new business is not going to come and hire somebody as a social media consultant. Let's be honest. They're going to be sorting out all the other stuff first. They might come to you, 3-6 months down the line looking for help to get their social media. Maybe they've been trying it themselves or something like that. So they kind of, hopefully by that stage, they kind of have an idea of what their brand is and their brand message. And I really sit down and kind of thrash that out with people. You know, are we going for a very poised professional message here? Or, you know, a lady I interviewed recently was selling educational toys for kids. So her messages were all aimed at working mums, you know, so it was friendly, but not patronizing, that kind of idea. So every business, when you sit down with a business owner and you work out really what their brand is trying to say and who they're trying to reach, that really helps you to build what your message is, I think.
And do you have any tips for that? Like, how do you come across when you're trying to be a brand rather than a person?
Oh, you see, I think actually people buy from people, and a lot of the people that I work with, even if they have a team of 30 or 40, if you're on social media, it's the key is the word social. People want to feel like they are actually buying from a person. So I think you have to give a bit of personality over there. And the other thing is, if you have, say you have a retail store and there's several people working there, you know, if you've got more than one person who's actually posting on the business Facebook account or the business Instagram, you got to make sure that everybody is on brand with what the personality of the business is. So do you know what I mean? Like if you have the manager jumps on one day and is, you know, really friendly and enthusiastic, and then the next day somebody else jumps on but doesn't really have the same tone of voice, that's confusing for the person who's actually reading the posts. But I think that you really want to make yourself to be sociable towards your audience so that they actually feel that. And it's the same with email marketing. When you write an email out to your email list, you want to write it as if you're writing it to one person. You know, so I would say to people, you try and identify who it is that you're trying to sell your product to or reach on social media, and like really identify them. You know, what are they, male or female? Do they have kids? Do they drive? Do they have a dog? You know, do they like to go out at the weekends? Do they stay in? You know, are they more inclined to sit and read a book? Or are they going to be watching Saturday night football? You know, who is this person? And when you know that, then you know how to talk to them. So if your ideal customer is a mum who has her own business and has kids who are going off to school, you know, your tone of voice on your social media, that person wants to sit down with a cup of coffee and read your post and think, oh, she is talking to me. That's the exact problem that I have right there. You know, and that would come across in the tone that you'd be using on that. So until you identify who you're actually trying to connect with, that's when you really identify your brand's tone online. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I like the idea of multiple people posting. If you have, like we used to have a couple of stores and different people would post, and there was no, you know, you have to post at 8 a.m. and you have to post at 12 p.m. and all that kind of stuff. It was just like, hey, when you feel like posting, I would love it for you to post. And they always used to sign off with their name. So at least people knew who
it was a different person.
Yeah, who it was. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes they would talk about their kids, or they talk about a customer that came into the store. Like, you know, I just had this great customer, met her lovely son, and we talked all about such and such. And sometimes they write like the person's name and the store that they were at. So, you know, you would kind of know, oh, that's my local person. And I just thought,
and then you really build a connection with them.
Yeah, so I don't always think you have to hide behind, you know, the face of anonymity. I think you can let your people be your people, because...
Oh, I also think, well, you see, that's very different, because if they're signing you, if it's Stuart signing off Friday and people know that's Stuart and they know Stuart has a dog, then they feel really connected to Stuart. So I think that's a lovely turn to do. And then you could do like a, you know, Friday meet the team. So this Friday it's Stuart, and next Friday it's Molly or whatever. And then people suddenly get really attached to your brand because they know the people that work there, and they feel that they are, you know, in a tiny way kind of connected to them and part of their lives. That's a really lovely idea.
And I think it's good because if you could be like, oh, that's the person who served me. And you have that connection. And then when you go back, you want to speak to that person again because you feel like you know them because you read about the dog or you read about them going to the beach on the weekend or whatever it was. I don't always believe you have to hide behind the corporate brand, even if we're not corporate, the brand. Sometimes you can just let your people be your people.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. It actually reminds me of about a year or two ago, a friend of mine, her daughter was performing in a local show on stage. And what was it? It was something with cats. Maybe it was cats. And every Thursday after rehearsal, her mum would take her into this coffee shop. And the guy behind the counter knew that that's what she was doing. So every week he would make a different cat on top of her hot chocolate with the chocolate dust. So every Thursday, the mum posted this on Facebook, and everybody, it just turned into this whole big thing, because it was like 6 weeks of practice or whatever. So then it was like, what cat's Stuart going to do today? So it really made a connection with the guy and with the coffee shop, and I'm sure it did their marketing no harm at all.
Yeah, and you can't fake that, can you? Like, he didn't do that to become social media viral. And that was actually my next question I was going to ask you, which was, how do you build engagement? Because I know that I'm taking a much more personal approach these days. I used to be very, not necessarily business, but I talk a lot about business. And these days I'm trying to talk about what I'm doing in my own life. So the last 3 days I've posted little Facebook Lives about when was the last time you exercised, and when was, what did you eat for breakfast, and just little things like that, because I do think you get a little bit of a connection there. But I have to say, engagement these days, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but it is a wasteland out there.
Well, it's really interesting because I have the engagement on my Facebook page has definitely grown. And I wonder my Facebook group is connected to my Facebook page, and I do post about my blog posts and my podcasts and stuff on my Facebook page. But other stuff, it would be more, it would be a bit more about heading off to a networking event, or I went to a summit in London 2 weeks ago, and I posted about that, and I got a lot of engagement on it. But the other thing I've started to do as well, Selena, is regular turning up on Friday to do a Facebook Live on my Facebook page. And I think consistency is definitely part of it. So people get to expect you being on there. And the views and engagement on those lives, has really grown as I've become more consistent with them. And that is me appearing on screen, and people, I'm telling people stuff about how to use Facebook for business. But it's also, they can see that it's me and where I am, and it's windy or whatever. Like I did one from London. I was outside Horse Guards Parade, and it was really quite a cool place to do it from. But yeah, my Facebook engagement is pretty good at the minute. But I do think that, do you have a Facebook group with your business?
I do have a Facebook group, and I think I'm about to can it because it's, to be honest, it is just one more thing that I have to post in. And I currently do Instagram, I do Facebook, and I do LinkedIn once or twice a week. And then when I have a Facebook group, like I get groups, I tell my retailers to have a Facebook group because your groups get more reach, your groups get more engagement. I think that will change soon, but that's just my opinion. But for me, it was like, that's just a whole extra load of content. I do a podcast every week, I do a video every week, and then I have to write content for trade magazines. So for me, it was just another form of having to create content. And it's almost getting to the point where, like, I feel like I'm just being canned, in my stuff that I post there. And I think that's a disservice. So it's still there at the moment, but when I get around to it, I'm just going to merge. It is connected to my page. I'm going to merge it all back together because I'm not doing the people in that group any favors. And I don't believe that, if you've gone and joined my group, I should be creating that engagement and that hype. So that's just my own personal decision. I can afford to do it on my page time-wise, but having that extra place where I have to be, one, and you can't just, I don't find you can just duplicate it. You can't just put it on your page and in your group. So that was, for me, that was just something that I've chosen not to do because I have to create way too much content as it is every single week.
Yeah, so I think I probably spend more time in my group than really anywhere else across all of social media, I would think. But as a group owner, I find it really interesting because I ask my group about what are they really struggling with, and what do they want help with, and then that kind of drives my next series of blog posts or my next little videos. So one of the things I did at the summit I was at in London, it was called Youpreneur Summit. It was absolutely amazing. I met loads of other online business owners, and another girl and I made a pact because we're not busy enough.
No.
That we were going to start putting videos on YouTube, and that we want to get 1,000 followers each by this time next year. So like one of those crazy pacts you make, because I've got 13 followers on YouTube, so I've got to grow from 13 to 1,000 in a year. So I got to make a lot of videos now. So those will definitely be getting repurposed.
And I think if you have a group and you look after them, it is a great place to get that engagement. It's a great place to get insight into your customers. Like, I am all for groups. I just feel that for my group, I am not there for them. So I'm choosing to bow away gracefully and say, hey, we can still talk. It just needs to be on my page.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. It's like I said at the start, there's no point in creating 4 social media accounts on 4 different platforms and then just abandoning 2. You're better to, decide where you're going to actually be and focus on those and do a good job on them rather than trying to spread yourself too thin. Because at the end of the day, it's not actually the posting and engaging on social media that is, eventually, hopefully it leads to sales and customers and clients. But you want to focus on the actual paying contracts that you have to deliver for your clients as well.
Yeah.
And not spend all day flapping about on Facebook.
And that's the other thing, right? Social media can be such a time suck. We just kind of hang out there because we do. and then 2 hours have gone past.
I know, it's terrible.
So do you have any tips on how to manage your time when you're on social media to make sure that is productive and effective and you're not just hanging out there because you don't feel like doing the washing up?
Well, so I do check my social media first thing in the morning, and then John Lee Dumas was at the conference that John Lee Dumas from EO Fire, Entrepreneur Fire, and he said that his rule is, and he was referring to email, but I think this should apply to social media too. He says, don't look at that stuff for the first couple of hours in the day, because when you do, you're getting sucked into other people's issues. If you know what you need to get done that day, start working on what you need to get done that day, and then, check your email after a couple of hours or check your social media. Because it's a complete rabbit hole. You go onto your Facebook page and then you get distracted by other people's stuff. And then maybe you're in a couple of different Facebook groups and somebody's asking questions. And before you know it, it's 11 a.m. and you've got nothing done on your own work. And for me, I work in the mornings and then my kids get out of school at 3 o'clock. So I only have so many hours in the day that I actually can sit and do my work. I have heard of apps that you can use that will shut you down if you spend too long on your social media. And I'm quite tempted to try those out. But basically, I will close down the windows on the social media platforms so that I don't get distracted and go off, talking to people rather than actually doing the stuff that's going to pay the bills.
Yeah, very important. Okay, I'm nearly finished with my questions. When you were talking a bit earlier, because I didn't actually have any questions written down, but I wrote down when we were talking, what are your feelings on social media scheduling programs?
Oh, well, I use Meet Edgar, and for some clients, I use Facebook's own scheduling, and that's it really. Meet Edgar, I would say the posts on my social media accounts are probably 50-50 real time, and scheduling. So absolutely, for the podcast episodes, so I'm eight episodes in, and each podcast has its own page on my website. And Meet Edgar is putting those podcast episodes out on a regular basis, and people are retweeting them and sharing them. I think there's a lifespan of each thing that you put into a content scheduler. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't do without mine, to be honest. It pulls back all the blog posts that I've entered into it, and all the little images and graphics and stuff, and spreads those out. I don't know if people maybe overuse them, but I certainly strongly believe in using it to a point, but also then jumping on in real time as well. I think that's really, having a mix of the two.
So the key there is just making sure that you don't overuse the scheduler. It's a great resource, but don't solely rely on it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think if you think that if you go on to, again, looking at Twitter, if you go on and spend 30 minutes on Twitter and engaging with people, you get a lot more out of it than you do for your Twitter account to have 10 posts going out across a day when you're not actually replying to them, and you don't even know what people are talking about on there either. So you definitely get a lot more out of it when you're on there live. But because we can't be on all of these platforms all of the time, or we would just get no work done, I think the scheduler is definitely a great addition to it. Absolutely.
And I know that a lot of people really struggle with ideas for what to post every single day. And you have very kindly offered something to help with that, haven't you?
Yes. So I developed, it was actually in May, I developed something called the 30-day challenge, where when people sign up for it for 30 days, I will send an email with a prompt of something different every single day to think about what to put on your social media accounts. And honestly, Selena, it's one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done, because people, in a lot of those emails, I say to people, let me know how you're getting on. So last night I got an email from a lady called Henrietta, who said, Louise, I can't believe the engagement we're getting from your 30-day challenge. We're only on day 3, but I put a picture up of her and her husband with an award they've won. She says, we've reached over 2,000 people on Facebook already. It's still building, and we've had 75 likes on Instagram. And she says, we have never, ever had engagement like it. And I get those emails on a regular basis now, and it just really, I love it. I love that people, are really finding it works for them. And it's such a simple thing every day. It's a little simple idea of something to get you thinking about what to put on your social media that day. And to be honest now, it really works best with Facebook and Instagram, I would say. But people do try it across Twitter as well. I don't know that anyone has actually done it on LinkedIn. I don't think it's as appropriate for that. But without doubt, people say, yeah, it really, really lifts their engagement. And then at the end of the 30 days, they send me a picture, like a screenshot of their insights. And it's all green lines the whole way, all the green numbers going up, which is just such a brilliant thing.
Well, so, clearly, yeah, that's what I need to sign up for.
Yes, you do.
So I will pop a link to that in the show notes, and I will head off myself, because I'm the same as you. Like, my brain is so overwhelmed with all of the stuff I have to do every day and the content that I have to write, that just thinking of what the heck I might post today. I love this concept of just getting an email. Hey, yeah, I can find, an orange cup. I don't know, whatever it is you have in your things. I reckon that is fantastic. So I'm going to sign up for that myself.
Brilliant.
But I have one last question for you. Well, it's a multi-part question. Are you an online shopper or an in-person shopper?
Oh, I'm such an online shopper because of my life.
Right.
We have 3 kids. I work for myself. My husband works full time, and it is I just don't find I have the time. Where I live, outside of the city centre, so I'm not in the city centre every day to be able to just pick stuff up. So yeah, I spend a lot of our shopping is online. Absolutely. I'd love to have the time to wander around the shops picking stuff up, but it's very rare. It's a rare occasion that happens.
And what's your favourite store?
Oh no, you're not going to like what I say.
Lots of people say Amazon.
For pure ease, yeah, I have to say it's Amazon. I feel quite guilty about that.
No, it's fine, because I think what we have to take away from that is when you give people a platform that makes it easy to shop, they're going to come back again and again. Because my next question is, what is it that makes you go back again and again?
It's just so easy.
Yeah, and we have to take that into our own businesses and say, how easy is it for people to buy from us?
Yeah. No, it just, yeah. I mean, even like my daughter is 12 and she's doing her first set of big school exams, and I needed to get her index cards for revision. So I jumped on, and I said to my husband, "Can you go in at lunchtime and get those from the stationery shop?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not sure if I can tomorrow." And I thought, you know what, I'll store it off Amazon. It'll be here by tomorrow anyway.
Tomorrow, yeah. So we are getting Amazon in Australia. We haven't got it yet, but I understand. I buy in Amazon everywhere else. So I have a brother-in-law and sister-in-law in the UK, so they ship stuff to me if I can't get it. I have friends in the US if Amazon doesn't ship to Australia. But the fact is, if Amazon is the place, you are not the first person to say that, but if Amazon is the place where your customers are hanging out, then why the heck are you not on Amazon, is all I have to say.
Yeah, because a lot of small businesses are. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of big businesses are, which I didn't realize. So again, being led by your 12-year-old is a very interesting concept for me. So my daughter wanted this sweater that she saw. She says, "Mom, can I buy a sweater on Amazon?" I was like, "Don't think you can buy a sweater on Amazon." And it was from a brand here called New Look. Have you heard of a shop called New Look?
No.
It's a big UK shop that teenage kids and people in their 20s love. And let's face it, actually, people like me too. So she says, "No, I want," and she ordered this jumper, and it came like 2 days later, and I had no idea that a big company like that was also using Amazon. But it's like fulfillment or whatever it is.
It just goes to show, doesn't it? Because as I said, here in Australia, there's a bit of an uproar. Is Amazon going to be the death of retail? But like you just said, there is nothing. What I love about Amazon is it is a completely inclusive platform. You can be the smallest retailer and still have your products on there. Nobody is stopping you from going onto Amazon, and you don't have to compete on price.
Yeah, there's actually a guy in my Facebook group called Dave who sells natural skincare products through Amazon, and he raves about it. He's been doing it for about 5 years.
Yeah. So, you don't have to be ashamed to say that you hang out on Amazon, because if we had the level of Amazon that you guys have, I reckon it's where I would be hanging out too. But it does not mean that I wouldn't buy from independents in the process.
Oh, well, you see, I do love my independence as well. I make a point when I am out, where I live, down at the bottom of the road from the primary school, there's a little independent chemists, and I buy stuff in there because I like supporting them, but they don't have everything that I need. They don't have the index cards.
Yes, exactly. You have to go where the thing is that you want. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this information. As I said, I'm going to pop the link, because it's quite a long link. I'm going to pop the link to your 30-day challenge into the show notes. And if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at www.socialbni.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those places under Social B. It's Buzzy B, so Social BEENI. And also you can join my Facebook group, which is the Social Beehive. So, I'd love to connect with all your listeners on there, Selena.
Well, thank you so much for all of that today. I'm sure that we're going to get a lot out of your 30-day challenge.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.